Hello again, I'm Sal Smith, and this is a book review. A book review on an distinguished work of art. I am that reviewer to review Larryboy and the Emperor of Envy. I'm just messing with you. Before I get into the fun review, I just have to tell you the terrible, awful, tragic, wicked, wretched events that took place of how I got this book. Just so happened I was riding the bike last Monday or Tuesday, can't remember which, and I found this book and another one, which I'll show later when I finish reading and reviewing it. But I found this book. It was left out in the rain. It was soaking. This is why it's so, well, obviously, weak as a book cover. And because of that, I went and saved it. I'm glad I did, because it's an alright book. Yes, I'll admit it's no distinguished work of art, but it's fun. It's fun, it's silly. It knows that it's not going to be some important work in the history of writing, so the author was smart enough to just make it entertaining as possible. And they managed to do that with a little bit of ingenuity of imagination with talking vegetables. Seriously, who came up with the idea of talking vegetables? I always wonder about that. Talking vegetables. And when did they start making them anyways? Oh well. I think there's enough tragicness for now. Let's get into the review of Larryboy. It was a typical day at Bumbleberg's Veggie Valley Elementary School. Well, okay, maybe it wasn't such a typical day. In fact, something just plain weird was going on. The teacher, Mr. Asparagus, was acting a bit oddly. Don't you think Mr. Asparagus is acting a bit oddly? Asked Lenny Carrot about his teacher. He sure is, said Laura Carrot. And he looks kind of funny, like cardboard. His lips don't move when he talks, Percy P piped in. That's weird. You know, said Rennie Blueberry, he looks a bit like a scallion from the side. What do you think, Junior? Asked Laura. Junior Asparagus didn't know what to think. After all, the teacher was his father. But his dad was acting oddly, and he sure did look funny. Almost as if he was wearing a cardboard mask drawn with crayon. Time for a math lesson, squawked the teacher. See, whispered Percy, his lips didn't move. That doesn't sound like my dad, said Junior. The teacher put a black bag on top of his desk. Now, children, the teacher said, I want you all to put your milk money into this bag. Then we will play a game. What game? Asked Junior. Hide and seek, replied the teacher. You will close your eyes and count to 1,000,000 while I run and hide. Won't that be fun? Junior thought hard. His dad sounded funny, looked as if he was wearing a cardboard mask, talked without moving his lips, and now asked the kids to hand over their milk money for a game of hide and seek. Hey, shouted Junior. You are my dad. You're the milk money bandit. But I look like your dad, don't you think? Asked the teacher. I think you're wearing a mask, said Junior. Am not, said the teacher. Are too, am not. That moment, a rather large suction cup flew through the open window and plopped onto Mr. Asparagus' face. And with a loud thwop, the plunger was pulled back through the window, ripping off the mask. It was the milk money bandit after all. Oh, it's so silly, it's hilarious. Milk money bandit. Come on. This is so ridiculous. It's hilarious. Okay. You're funny. Alright. I I'm gonna get to reviewing in a minute, but there's one other thing I want to read for you. Meanwhile, in a secret hideaway on the edge of Bumbleberg, an evil plan was being designed. Not just any evil plan, mind you, but that of Larryboy's nemesis, the Emperor Napoleon of crime and other bad stuff. The evil cherry tomato was sitting in his throne room when he called in his soldiers. "Troops, come in here!" called the villain. The Emperor's army stumbled into the room. The term army, as it turns out, was a bit misleading. In fact, this particular army was rather two muscular sweet potatoes named Frank and Jesse. "And we really aren't that sweet," said Jesse. "Who are you talking to?" asked Frank. "Nobody," Jesse responded. The villain, one of the silence knows what's going on. Okay. Despite the obvious title, Larryboy and the Emperor of Envy, gee, I wonder what the moral dilemma's gonna be about. Maybe it has something to do with envy. Despite that, it really is a funny, ridiculous, silly book that's, well, fun. In fact, I don't even have much to complain about this book, despite its ridiculousness. It's because of its ridiculousness, it's so much fun to read. It's like, yeah, I know that there's no such thing as a milk money bandit, but that's funny. It's so ridiculous already with the vegetables and all. But I think one thing that must be the weakest part of this book, and I feel was a bad mistake by the writer, was having a superhero school. The reason being is it obviously tells what the story is about and how to defeat the enemy and basically teaching you how to take care of envy. It's not really a long chapter though, so it's not too annoying or boring, but it's still an annoying nuisance in how it's there, and it would have actually been better had it not been there, because it would have just been more of this ridiculous, wacky adventure of superhero silliness. I wondered if Larryboy actually has comic books. That would be interesting, wouldn't you think? Just to see how ridiculous it is. Takes off the mask. Alright. Anyways, despite the obvious flaws, it teaches a good message I think everyone can agree with. Envy is bad. We should be content with who we are. And I can't argue with that. I think that's something we could all agree with. I give Larryboy some credit for being okay in its ridiculousness. It's nothing serious. It's no classic work of art. But it's silly. And it's not very often you have stories about vegetables. So, you gotta have that somewhere, right? Besides, Larryboy. Our hero. And so, I finished the review. Alright, till next time.